This is the Discuss Metal podcast with Mike Perez of No Bragging Rights, hosted by Dan Terry and David Van Zandt, presented by discussmetal.com.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Discuss Metal podcast. I have with me tonight Mike Perez of No Bragging Rights. How are you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing well, man.
It's been quite the crazy past couple of weeks. I'm not going to talk too much about like virus stuff or whatever, because a dude literally just messaged me the other day and said, I love the fact that your show doesn't talk about virus stuff. That's a thing that we don't do, for sure. Just kind of went with it.
It's about the music, man.
Absolutely. Well, and with us tonight is David Van Zandt, the newest member of discussmetal.com.
What's going on?
Not too much, dude. We're it's still daylight where you guys are at. I'm so jealous. It's like nighttime here in St. Louis. You guys are 2 hours behind me and still have so much more of your day left than I do.
Let's take it up, talking to each other.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things, and we will talk about music here in a little bit, but one of the biggest things for you, Mike, is you've been doing Instagram live videos pretty much any chance you get, it seems like. And I guess I'm wondering, what inspired you to start doing that?
I literally just trying to find something to pass the time, and I'd kind of been asked before to explain some of our songs. And so that kind of was like where the idea kind of started, where I was like, I'll go on live and I'll just talk about a song. And so I would do that. And it was kind of awkward because I've never really done that before. And I kind of figured out that I could read comments while they were happening. And so because I didn't know what I was doing. So it was a weird mix of well, wait, should I stay on course of what I'm talking about the song, or should I answer questions? And then eventually I just liked answering questions more. So I don't know, it just became an open kind of discussion. I'll pick a song and then I'll start to talk about it. But the minute I get any kind of questions, I'll go into that. And then it just became something hey, I'm going on and I have nothing to do right now. So I'm going on in half hour. If anybody wants to jump in, throw me a topic. And so it just kind of became so now it's just I either talk about songs, or I'll just literally go on and see what's going on in the world and see what everybody wants to talk about.
That's cool. And is it cool for you, being able to reach out to people, during a time where it's hard for people to get out and stuff? Was there any inspiration for that, where it's I need something to do, these people are here? Is it a good feeling, I guess, the people are asking you questions? I know I came on like a deer in headlights a few nights ago on Instagram Live, and I was I'm just testing this out. I don't know how this works. I don't know how any of this works. And people were watching and asking me questions and stuff, and I was I gotta go, because I'm terrified of doing stuff live. And but I mean, was that a kind of a cool response for you? It seems like you've had some pretty deep discussions on there.
Yeah, dude. So it's I rarely. I mean, I think everyone, for the most part, most of the people who check in, they either know about my band, or they know which if they know about my band, they know about the whole mental health thing. And then if it's somebody who doesn't know me from the band, then they know that I'm going to school to be a social worker and mental health, So it's I feel the discussion goes there pretty often. I think people, which is rad. I think I've not just myself, but the people who've been kind of showing up regularly. I feel like we've created a safe space. And so we'll literally be talking about anything. And then somebody will kind of just jump in and be man, I had a bad day, or hey, does anyone, am I wrong in feeling like this? And they'll talk about, something that happened to them when they were younger, or something that they're going through currently. And so it's been interesting kind of having that kind of discussion, because I'm kind of freaked out too about the whole live thing, right? Because I don't know what people are going to say or what's going to happen. But I mean, it's been nice, and I think it's nice to have a place where people can kind of just go to hang out in general. And then there's some nights where I'm not even the one really talking. Sometimes I'll just invite somebody on my feed, and then they'll just kind of either share their story, or people will just start asking them about their question. I'm kind of just sitting back, I just kind of see it as I facilitate. That's how I see it now. I'm just like a facilitator. So
that's awesome. So we're gonna come back to that later on in the discussion. But I always like ripping this off of one of my other favorite podcasts, As the Story Grows, where it's the first question he always asks people is, what got you into music? So I'm not gonna ask that exact same question, but I'm gonna ask, what got you into punk and hardcore?
So punk rock for me was, I got into it super young, man. Like at 10 years old, I kind of, my friend's older brother basically was just kind of like, oh, so you like alternative music? Like, what do you like about this and that? And he was smart, dude. Like he basically got me to admit that, like, I was like, I like fast music. I don't really like screaming that much, but I can do it, I guess. And so he kind of went from the, and this is all kind of radio stuff. And he's like, well, from these bands, what do you like? And I think it was like Bad Religion and, it was Metallica. And I was like, well, I kind of like Bad Religion more. It's like, okay. I don't know. It was just weird. So like, I kind of figured out pretty early on that I liked punk rock, and I carried that, till now. And, I don't know. I got, why I stuck with it is, I'm my dad's Mexican, my mom's Peruvian, but I was raised here, so like my Spanish is kind of non-existent. Before punk rock, it was like the Beach Boys, for me. it was like Motown stuff. It was, not the typical Hispanic upbringing. Both my parents, they're both fluent in both, but we spoke English in the house, and so I think I kind of grew up with this, like, not quite being like white enough for like my white friends, but then like definitely not being like, Hispanic enough for like my Hispanic friends. And so I think I always grew up like kind of in different worlds. And I like that punk rock was like that, a place where people, didn't feel like they didn't quite fit in anywhere else. And so that's what kind of, I think, drew me to punk rock. And then hardcore, I think, was just like the natural like evolution from punk rock for me. It was hard for me to get into at first because I didn't truly understand what hardcore was. I thought it was more like metal, and I've never been like big into metal. Like I can appreciate it, and there's some bands that I like, for sure, but that wasn't like, it wasn't appealing to me until finally, I'll give credit to my ex. She was like kind of the first one to really be like, that like hardcore is basically punk rock, right? It's like the same thing. And so she kind of would show me bands. She showed me Bane.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, for the longest time, I was like, this is a punk band, She's
no,
like,
it's
they're hardcore.
technically hardcore, yeah.
Yeah, and then I think the one that kind of like was like a staple for me. No one can see this, but is Ignite, because Ignite was like one of my all-time favorite bands. And at the time, I wouldn't say they are now, but at the time, she's like, they're like a hardcore band, right?
They are hardcore, yeah. Yeah.
So I was just like, oh shit. I was like, okay, well. Okay, I was like, I'll give it a shot, and then I fell in love, man. Like, so when I started going to hardcore shows, it's just a whole different, vibe. It's a whole different energy. It's terrifying and exciting, and yeah, man. I would say I fell in love with hardcore around 2000, 2004, 2005, around there.
And around that time was like, you're in Riverside, California. That's like one of the meccas of hardcore, especially on the West Coast.
Oh yeah, dude.
One town over, Corona, you got the Showcase Theater. So like, once you get into hardcore, it's kind of impossible not to be surrounded by it once you start getting in that scene where you live.
Right. And especially seeing hardcore shows at Showcase Theater, like, dude, it was like the energy there was insane, man. And like just that venue is awesome. But like to see hardcore shows there, I grew up there. I grew up there like, 98, 99 is when I actually started going to shows. And like, 2003, 2004 is when I started slowly getting into hardcore. Then it was just like a hardcore show is just different, man. You know what I mean? It's just like, whereas in punk rock, there's circle pits and stage dives, but hardcore show, I mean, there's two-stepping, there's side to side, there's, straight up there, hardcore dancing, there's guys head walking, there's, you know what I mean? It's just like insanity. So I loved it, man. I loved it.
So was it that kind of frenetic energy of, because you'd mentioned that I like, sure, Metallica's cool, but Bad Religion's cooler. Was it just the lack of structure, kind of in a way, where it was like everybody just jump in when they jump in, and just the speed, the aggression?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's and also, I mean, there is like elements of punk rock that, because like there are some metal bands that have like cheesy harmonies, and I say cheesy in a nice way. I love harmonies, but like like a band like Bad Religion, even No Effects have like really sweet harmonies, and I've always dug like the melodic side of things, and I always just felt like for like punk bands, even the ones that didn't have singing, I always just felt like there was a little bit more melody for some of these songs, and metal was a little more. I think also too, metal was always like a little more like sophisticated, and
hyper structured.
Yeah, and not being like a good musician myself as far as like playing guitar, I always felt like well, this, I don't know, punk rock just felt like more fun. I felt like metal was a little more serious.
So you're a fan of metal, you're a fan of hardcore, you're a fan of punk. Is that why, when the band first started out, you're bigger? It seemed like it was a bigger swing towards punk than hardcore, and just kind of turned into that.
Yeah, we kind of went toward like almost like a metalcore route.
Yeah,
and I think it's because like
we all did.
So yeah, and I think especially like the punk rock kid who hears who at that time heard like As I Lay Dying or like Kill Switch, then it's like, oh, I want to learn how to riff. It's like instead of just bar leads. And so I think for our band, we'd been a punk band, and then we just naturally started progressing towards wanting to be harder or heavier. And so I think had it been like my decision, I think we would have gone just like straight hardcore. But I think the guitarists that we had were a little more drawn to like a little more of like the riffy, more metalcore type of stuff. And so I'd say we went metalcore before we went into like melodic hardcore. So
yeah, melodic hardcore probably one of my favorite genres overall. Just because I kind of have my cake and eat it too with melodic hardcore. You've got punk, you've got straight hardcore, stuff like Bane, you've got that. Yeah. But at the same time, you also, melodic hardcore does have a little bit of that metalcore modernization to it, I guess is the only way to really put it, is because you still have the screams, you still have the breakdowns, you still have that stuff, but you get all the building blocks of that stuff. Because I cut my teeth on stuff like Shai Hulud and Hope's Fall and Life in Your Way and bands like that were just very, very, very melodic, but also very passionate. And I think there's always been a line kind of drawn that, a melodic hardcore band isn't just a wimpy hardcore band; it's just a more passionate hardcore band.
I like that. Yeah, and Shai Hulud for me, I remember like I didn't even really, especially when we started getting into more like, I think getting out of like the metalcore kind of stuff and getting back towards melodic hardcore. It's weird because like I think Shai Hulud I never understood what Shai Hulud was. Like I was just like, what? I don't get it. Like they're punk. I was like, I feel punk rock when I hear them, but they're playing like sick metal riffs and the, what I mean? It's just like I never. And then once I remember I had shown our guitarist who now primarily writes for our band, and I remember I had shown him Shai Hulud, and he it was one of the older recordings, and I don't think he dug it. And then like a year or two later, I think he finally like gave it like a better, like a more of a true listen, and he was just like, dude, this is like the perfect band. We should try to beat this, but with like singing. And so, a band like Shai Hulud was like I would just be a Shai Hulud cover band. If we could just do that, that'd be rad.
Just do it. Just go in and record all your favorite songs.
I know.
Nothing's stopping you other than, copyright and having to ask permission and, all that good stuff.
And timing, dude. I have the worst time. I could never sing for Shai Hulud, ever. Because they have like such interesting timing, and their song structure is always interesting. And dude, I could never do it, man.
But you did, right? We told that story off mic, but I'm gonna make you tell it again. How you actually got to sing on a Shai Hulud song.
I did, man. I got 2 lines, 2 glorious lines. I got to sing Matt and our guitarist Daniel, they become buddies. They're both guitarists, obviously. And they both a lot of Daniel's style was adopted from how Matt plays now, and so I don't even know how it came up, but I think Matt had mentioned something to Daniel like, "Hey, do you think Mike would be down to like do the guest part?" Daniel was like, "Yes, absolutely. Like, yes, he will." Like, you don't even have to ask him. Like, he'll do it. And then of course, when they asked me, I was like, "Yeah, what do you want? Where? What? Like, when? What do you want me to do? I'll go right now. Like, tell me." And yeah, it was for I don't know if you found it. Is it cold? It's colder than Cold World, right?
Colder than Cold World, yeah. I kind of jumped off of my computer because the notifications are driving me crazy. But yeah, I'm gonna pull it up here real quick. Yeah. If we did a good job, then Joe will probably start playing the song in the background while we're talking about it.
Cool. He'll probably have to like put it on a loop. It's a short song, and my part is even shorter. But oh my gosh, it was so. And what's funny, so I'm not even exaggerating. I literally do 2 lines, and I did them a couple times just because I'm like, if I'm gonna get 2 lines, like I gotta, like they gotta be good, man. Like it's, I don't know. So it was exciting. Dave, did you know that I did that?
Yeah, man. I think I don't think you told me though, but I think I was listening to it and I was like really quick. I was like, oh man, it's like, whose voice is that? Kind of sounds like Mike. And then just kept on moving on. And then I think I heard a couple, because I think Andrew from Comeback Kid is on that album too. I think he does a guest spot too. I was like, oh man, it kind of sounds like Andrew Neufeld. And then I looked at the credits and it was like Mike Perez. I was like, yo, I think I went back to work and I told you, I was like, you didn't tell me you're on a Shai Hulud record.
Yeah, it was on Just Can't Hate Enough.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. That was the one that they put out after Reach Beyond the Sun. Mm-hmm. And then, whatever is going to happen with Shai Hulud in the future, which, I really tried really hard in my interview to dig for, but he gave me nothing on that. Lots of talking about Muppets, but not so much that stuff. But, I think one of the most interesting things about talking to musicians overall is, there's this weird difference between those of us that enjoy music. Like, I'm an official music appreciator or whatever you want to call it. What was it for you that made you go from being somebody that was into music to actually wanting to make your own music and that being like a reality?
I think the first time that I had seen, so there was a band called Falling Sickness, and they were from Riverside, where I'm from. The singer, in a weird way, we're kind of related. Like our grandmas were cousins or something weird. So we have a weird tie. So anyway, it was like the first time that I'd seen him growing up. I knew who he was. He was older than I was, but it was like to see somebody that I knew doing music was like, it made it obtainable, and it almost just seemed like an impossible dream. Like, oh, it'd be cool to create music. I don't play an instrument. I don't know anyone else that plays this kind of music, And so to see him, or just to see that band live, it was it for me. Like I was like, that I want that. I want to be able to move people like that. I want to do that. And so I just like almost instantly like kind of wanted to just write music, and then that was it.
Well, there's got to be more. There's got to be more of a story to it than that. So we've. So you went from you see somebody that you see them play and all of that. What did you end up doing as far as you're like, okay, I want that. So like, what's step one? You find dudes that want to play, or I'm gonna make you go real deep.
Cool. All right, so step one was literally, so I had my best friend, and I just knew he'd be down. So it was my buddy Ryan, and I was like, "Hey, we're starting a band. Like, you don't have a choice. Like, we're gonna start a band." He's like, "All right, cool, like, I'm down." And then my other best friend was who was our drummer. His name was Jose, and he had done drum line and school band and stuff, and so I was like, okay, so he's our drummer because he already can do shit with his hands, He
knows music. So,
yeah. And so we got, for like my 8th grade graduation, I think for both of ours, for me and my buddy Ryan, we both got he got a bass, I got a guitar, And then I think, dude, I actually ended up for my birthday actually with my own money. I just bought a drum set, like a super basic one, and then I kept it at my house, even though I was just like, this is Jose's. I don't care if he ever pays me back. Like, this is his drum set because like I want to play. Like, I don't care. And so that's kind of like how I would say by the time we were like freshmen in high school, we already kind of had more or less, we had gear, and then we were kind of like, all right, cool, let's try to like learn our instruments, and then let's try to write, you know. And we so for me, my original plan was to have one of my other friends sing for us, because I wanted us to, like, even back then I was like, we're gonna be a punk band, but I want us to have like cool harmonies. Like, I want us to be like I don't know, it's a good example, like homegrown, like maybe not quite like I never wanted to be like a lead singer, but I wanted to have like, you know, vocal parts, but I wanted to do harmonies. And so that was like the plan, but our buddy Joey just never came to practice.
Yeah.
And so we're just
typical singer stuff.
Yeah, you know, and so the three of us are just like hanging out. So I was just kind of like, dude, whatever, I'll do it. I'll sing until we find someone, kind of thing. And then I just, you know, and then it just, like, I also started to find too that like when I was starting to, because even if Joey, his name was Joey, who was going to be our singer or original, like even if he was going to be in the band, I was still going to write the music. And so it was just like one of those things where I realized like, oh, if I write it, I can remember it. And then I can just, you know, not that there were hard songs, but I can do it. And so it became like writing, especially writing for punk rock, man. It was like, it was easy. It was fun. And so we were just the typical Southern California, like, garage band, like, for years, like, and, actually, yeah, for like a long time. And so, we just did the whole, you know, we practiced all the time. Like, our music was never, and I'm not trying to be like humble or anything, like, our music was never good, but we were always pretty solid as far as like, we got pretty tight just because we literally just practiced all the time. Like, we just loved practicing. And then, you know, we started trying to play shows, and eventually we started to like really, like, it's weird to me that bands don't like work. Like, it's weird. Like, you know, there was a time when like, you know, bands would go out and flyer, but like we were doing that shit like religiously. Like, we were constantly like flyering. Like, we would, you know, we learned how to like work the machines at like, not Office Max, but one of those, or Staples. Did you guys have Staples?
We had Kinko's.
Kinko's, yeah.
Kinko's? Okay, yeah. Well, same thing. Like, we were just dumb high school kids, and we would go in there and we learned how to use the machine. And what we didn't understand was, like, I think like you use it. I still don't know. You use it, and then I guess you pay at the front or something.
Oh no.
Well, dude, for years, my whole high school life, we'd go in there, we'd print like 1,000 or whatever flyers, you know, and then we'd be like, look, we're like, dude, I guess it's free. Like, that's how dumb we were.
Nobody said anything?
Nobody said anything, dude. Like, and we went like so often, man. And so, and then I think by the time we were like juniors or maybe seniors in high school, my bassist was like, you know that we probably, like, we have to pay for these, right? I was like, are you serious? He's like, I think so. He's like, dude, it's like, this costs money. And so yeah. And so once I realized, and to be fair, like, once I truly realized what we were doing, then we stopped.
Right.
You know?
Sure.
And then, yeah, it's, we did that for years. So I guess maybe that's why a lot of bands don't flyer. As I'm saying that now, they weren't stealing like we were.
Maybe.
But, yeah, man.
So what year was that?
So I guess we officially, I guess, like, I would say our first show was in '99, like our first, you know, got on flyer, you know, was '99. And so I'd say like, by like 2002, we were starting to like, you know, play on cool, like, local shows. Every now and then we'd kind of get like, you know, like on like a Tuesday night, we could probably headline our own little show. And, like, I don't, for anyone who's not familiar with the Showcase Theater, it was like the venue out here for like the longest time, and they were super awesome to us. And they were very, like, the promoter was this guy named Joe, and like I like, it's so awesome the stuff that he told. He was so real with us. Like, he was like we learned a lot of like valuable lessons just by him just being like honest with us, you know. And like he like the whole like because every band hates paying like pay to play, right? Like sell tickets.
Oh my god,
like,
yeah. Buy 50 tickets from us for $100, and then if you sell up to $100, you get to keep the rest. And like nobody's ever heard of your band, so it's nearly impossible to do.
Right.
Yeah, been there.
But Joe was like he was like real. He was like real about it. He's like okay. He's like, you're selling tickets because like no one's gonna come to your show, right? You guys are a local band, no one knows. He's like, but you sell enough tickets, it tells us that you'll bring heads. And so if you're bringing heads, we can put you on with like national touring acts that come through, right? And he's like, and also, I forget with how much, like, we'll just say like tickets are like $8. He's like, sell them. He's like, you can sell them for $6 and keep $2 for yourself. And so we were like, for us right away, like, and I give credit to our bassist because he was a lot smarter than me. We kind of just like, we kind of all kind of agreed, like, we'd rather have more people come to our show, right, than make money off this. And we're like, yeah, we're like, all right, cool. And so he came up with a way to be like, hey, to our friends, hey, if you sell, I forget how it works, the math for it. Sell 5 tickets for $8, you just paid for your ticket. And so we would just offer that deal to friends, or just different people, and it just kind of became a thing. And so I think that's how like we kind of grew our local following, because it was like we basically pyramid schemed our.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do, man. Like,
yeah, and so that's kind of how we kind of how things grew that way. And then 2005 is when like our band should have changed. Like we should have changed our name, because that's when we lost basically our original bassist. Who I think he was kind of like our last like true link to like writing punk rock music, I feel. And so when he left, and then our drummer had already left, is when our new core, which is myself, Christian Lee, and then Martin Alcedo, who's our drummer, so guitarist and drummer. That was kind of like our new core moving forward, because they're still in the band. And I think we should have changed like our name, because when those guys joined the band, then it was like a more of accelerated, like, okay, let's be heavier, let's kind of move away from like straight punk. And so
did that have anything to do with the bands that you were playing shows with at the time too? Was it like, kind of like, did you find yourself on more heavy shows than punk rock shows? Is that kind of where that came from, or was it just a personal preference?
Yeah, I think I hadn't thought of it that way, but I think so. Yeah, a lot of the bands we're starting to play with, started getting heavier. Like, especially for out here, like, I love Thrice. I love Thrice. They killed our punk rock scene out here, because
oh no,
they were that band that was just punk rock enough for like all the punk rock kids to like get into, and then all of a sudden all those kids are like, I want to start riffing and I want to learn how to play solos, and you know what I mean? So it's just like, I feel like everyone gradually, like Thrice was that perfect stepping stone for heavier music, and then Suicide Silence is from Riverside, and Impending Doom, and all these heavier bands. So it was like there was a lot of those kind of bands out here. So I had never thought of it that way, but I think playing with majority heavier bands really did push that change to be heavier ourselves. So that's cool, dude. That's a great question. I had never thought of it that way, and as I'm thinking about it, that's kind of, I would say that was a big push, was the bands that we were starting to play with.
Well, that's always a curiosity of mine is, when bands kind of change their sound, is it peer pressure, or is it personal preference? And I get such a wide variety of answers from people. Some people are like, I knew what every record was going to sound like before I even played a note, or you know what I mean? Like, so that it's always refreshing to hear that. I feel like, everybody else was kind of playing that is kind of the more honest answer. And
we got to open for Haste the Day twice. It was like a random little thing. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, David has no idea who that band is.
Oh man, and so it's like it's funny. I forget about that because it's like it was so long ago. It was at the showcase, but even playing with bands like that and like seeing like the crowds they brought, and I think man, like I really do think it was like the shows that we were starting to play were, geared towards, more metalcore and hardcore. So yeah, I guess.
So how long into it did you? Because you were playing guitar this whole time. So how long into it did you ditch the guitar and just go straight frontman?
I ditched the guitar in 2000 and I would say 2003, 2004. We were 3-piece for the longest time, and then we added a guitarist, and then when I started, like it was I kind of, there was things that I wanted to, like I love the band Strung Out, and I can't play like that. And there was just things that I was like, man, it'd be cool if we sounded like Strung Out, like if we could do that kind of stuff. And so when we finally found another guitarist who could do, more or less that, I was very willing to give up playing, and then once I was still writing majority for the music, like obviously play guitar and whatnot, and then we went through some changes, and we had 2005 when the new core was starting, we had added our buddy Chris, and with Chris, it was one of those things where we were jamming and just watching him, watching how he was writing. I was like, okay, he's a better writer than I am. So then I was okay just being like, if you want to write the music, man, as long as I get to write lyrics, I don't care. I think that sounds way cooler than what I'm riffing over here, So 2003-ish, I kind of gave up guitar. And then I think by 2005, I'd kind of stepped away as far as writing the actual music and just focused on lyrics and melodies.
Well, 2005 was a big year for you. As far as that's whenever you guys finally got a full length out there, because you believe in something beyond them. And you guys put that out yourself, I guess
yeah. Yep.
I guess it says it came out in 2006, but I feel like 2005 feels true. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it was, cause that's, I mean, there's even some songs I would say that are from I think 2004 even, but that was when we had just gotten the new core that I was talking about,
Yeah.
And so we had I love that recording. It's a mess as far as styles because we had no idea what we were doing. We were still trying to be a punk rock band, but also trying to be whatever else we were becoming. And but I loved it, and we recorded it out here, and then kind of try to shop it. Nobody wanted it, so we did it ourselves.
Same story. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So and we were totally fine with it, man. We were like, well, dude, we like this. Let's put money into it. Let's invest in it. And that was the other thing too. When we learned we could press our own CDs and stuff. It's obviously it's cost money, but we were like, dude, let's just do it ourselves, and then let's just try to push these things.
Yeah, and you guys had a pretty sizable following at that point, locally at least. And so, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, because I remember being kind of in a similar position where it was like, well, we've got all these local fans. We can put as much money as we need to into the CD, press the CD ourselves, and then we'll make all the money back. And so what is it that you guys did to push towards actually getting a label interested?
Well, I think the only reason we had done, so we kind of, so you've seen those bands that hustle their CDs outside of Warped Tour?
Yep. I'm
not going to say we were the first band to do that, because we weren't, but I would say we were at least one of the first bands to do it the way we did it. And that was we had done an EP, same thing, self-release. Nobody wanted it. And so we just started hustling them like crazy outside of Warped Tour, and we got more and more creative. We saw how bands would go up to people, and they had their their headphones, and be like, hey, do you want to check out my band? And we just thought that's not time efficient, and plus people were gonna be like, I don't want to put my ears on that, And so we got boom boxes.
Nice.
We just bought boom boxes, and we just walk up to the group and be like, hey, this is our band, do you like it? You know what I mean? And so it's easier, and also you give the opportunity. You were just playing it, somebody can come and be like, oh, what is that? And so we did that. We kind of stumbled on to like at a good show we'd sell like 6 CDs, right? That was like for us like a good night is like 6 to maybe 10 CDs,
Hey brother, $60 to $60, right?
Yeah. Well, our first day of Warped Tour, I think we sold like 150 CDs.
Oh,
yeah.
Dinner's on me, guys. Yeah.
Yeah. And like we were kind of just like laughing our asses off because we were like dude, like that can't be normal. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
There's no way that can happen again. So then we were like, dude, if this is a thing, like let's try it out. So I think we drove to the next day, like that was Pomona. Like the next day was like San Francisco or something. And so we were just kind of like, dude, let's just try it again. If we sell 50 CDs, like how insane is that? And so, we go up, and I think we sold about, another 100, maybe 100, close to 150. And so we were just kind of like, okay, we have to we have to keep doing this, And so, luckily for us, like at least for me, I'll speak for myself. I was working at Starbucks, and my manager was so cool, and he was just like, I was like telling him, I was like basically like so nervous to be like, how do I tell him like, hey, can I have the summer off so that I can go follow a tour that I'm not even on and sell a CD? You know what I mean? Like, how do I? And so
you should have just told him you were on the tour. He wouldn't have known.
Oh, dude, I have really funny stories about him. So like I'm like struggling to get it out. He's just like, how much time do you need off? And I was like, dude,
awesome.
I don't know. So like at least till like August, And he was just like, oh, he's like, okay, yeah, dude, yeah. He's like, go. He's like, if I have to fire you, then I'll just hire you when you come back. So I was like, sick, dude. So then, and it's funny because like while I'll be out and I'd check in obviously, and he'd be like, dude, how how is it out there? Because like halfway through the tour, we start making friends, and anyway, so like he's like, how is it? Oh no, it's so cool, dude. Like we sold like 200 CDs today, and then like we met this cool band. He's like, that's cool, man. Can you like at least lie to me and just be like, yeah, I got to sign boobs.
Right.
I was like, I got super hammered and like, you don't remember where you were at. Someone got arrested. Can you at least like lie to me and give me something like that, please?
You're like, I woke up in a bathtub filled with cocaine. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know where I'm at, man. I'm in jail.
Those Starbucks managers are awesome people, dude.
Right? Dude. So
I've heard they were all a-holes. I don't know.
Dude, so all that to say, so summer ends, and then we had done that. We'd followed the tour, and we had also realized like gas is expensive, and like Warped Tour goes state to state.
Dude, it wasn't back then, and anyway, it's not now actually. But go ahead.
But I mean, like we're selling like a $5 CD, and a lot of times someone was just even giving it away, basically, and so So we started to sell waters, which is super illegal, but we like bought like a big ass cooler. We'd go to Costco, load up on ice and water. And so we would just basically be like, hey, like if you buy one of our, buy water for $1 and we'll give you our album, you know what I mean? Like who cares kind of thing. And so just cause we wanted to get our music out, And so it became like a nice way to make some gas money to kind of travel. And then what would eventually, we didn't know it yet, but eventually we were like creating our own touring budget. And so one night after Christian, our guitarist, was at a show. He's watching a band called Before Their Eyes, and he was just talking to one of the guys in the band, and he kind of, I don't know how it came up. He's like, oh yeah, I'm in a band called No Braggers, whatever. And he's like, I don't know how it came up, but it came up with that, like, he's like, yeah, we followed Warped Tour and we just were selling our CDs. And we were selling about, I would say like close to about 150 a day. And he's like, what? We're like, yeah, sometimes we could hit that 200 mark, but just, most days about 100, but every now and then we'd have like a good day. And he was just like, you sold
what?
your own EP. Like, dude, how many dates did you guys go to? And so so Christian didn't realize he was talking to Nick, the owner of Standby Records at the time.
Okay.
And so, he kind of he kind of admired the fact that we had like that work ethic, which was kind of on accident, but we had that, work ethic, and we had sold an EP, all over the country just basically on our own. And so he was just kind of like super intrigued, and we signed with Standby, and it was rad because we signed with Nick, who's awesome. Eventually, Nick sold Standby to a guy named Neil, who's not awesome. I won't go into that. But,
okay.
Yeah, I mean I can, but it was. Yeah.
Just depends on how long you think the statute of limitations is.
Right.
And when we're talking like what, 15 years ago at this point?
Yeah, it's been a couple of years. That was 2000.
I'm not digging. If you don't want to say it, you don't have to say it.
No, I mean, it was nice because it was I will say this, it was awful because the following year we did Warped Tour again.
Okay.
And we had told him like, hey man, like this is what we do.
Wait, you did Warped Tour, or you played Warped Tour, or you just went to Warped Tour and sold
did it no bragging rights style?
We
okay,
did no bragging
all right.
style, which
NBR style, got it.
Yeah. And so, but it was, yeah. And so we told him like, hey, this is what we're going to do this summer. Like, we're going to make, like, we're going to make you money, man. So like, just make sure you like send us CDs and we'll make you money basically. And so, he didn't really believe us, I think, like with our numbers. And so we would, we'd basically do what we did, and we'd sell out really quickly. And we'd be like, hey man, we're running out of CDs. Can you send us like a couple thousand, And he's like, yeah, but you gotta, and so he upped the price, and we're like, wait, what, why is the price changing? And he, gave us some stupid answer from, oh, well, inflation or something stupid. Yeah. And so then he's like, actually, I'm going to need you guys, because if you guys are making that much money, I'm going to need you guys to start paying like upfront, at least half, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, what? Like, dude, like it's never been like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's never been like this. And so we were like, because like we're making money, but it's like, dude, this money's going into gas. Like we're eating. We're not part of this tour, man. Remember, we're not on this tour. Like,
not to mention, we did better last year without you.
Right.
What the heck? Yeah.
Yeah. And so like it's like, dude, we're asking for CDs to make you money, man. Like, what's the issue here? And so we kept getting to the point where he would send us like 200 CDs or something, and we're like, are you serious? So we had to the point where we were having just to sell waters more because we didn't have enough CDs, which is illegal. Super illegal.
There it is.
Which, yeah, Warped Tour staff freaking. That's like. Anyway, I can do a whole segment on.
Can you imagine getting arrested for selling waters?
Dude.
What are you in for? I sold water at Warped Tour. Oh man!
Dude,
and I also stole a whole bunch of flyers from Kinko's.
Yeah, I would not last long in there. But dude, we've even like run into like Atlanta like street water hustlers too, that were like, they're like, you seem like nice boys. I'll let you walk away now, or you're gonna we're gonna put some holes in you, kind of thing. We're like, oh,
we only torture the dudes we don't like.
Yeah, it's like, all right, well, yeah, we don't have to sell water today, but
wow.
Anyway, so then we're basically fighting with our label owner to send us CDs, our own CD to sell for him, basically, and so we have like. So we're like, he just keeps sending us the least amount possible, and we keep having to sell more water, so overcompensate for what we're not selling our CD. And so we tell him like, hey, we have 2 weeks left on this tour, and then we have to head back, and we start a tour with I Am Ghost. And so nothing, and then finally he tells us, hey, I just sent you guys some CDs. So he sends us with a week left of Warped Tour, like 1 week. He sends us like 4,000 CDs, and we're like, and mind you, he wants the money for them. We're like,
no,
what the fuck is this, dude? Like, what? Can I cuss on this,
dude?
Okay,
yeah,
we got the explicit tag. Don't worry.
Okay, cool. And so,
we're cool.
And so, like, we get it, and we're like, are you serious? Like, you now you want to send us this many CDs, and so he wanted the money. He wanted the money for him, and we're like, no, dude, fuck you. Like, we'll sell what we can. For this next week, and then And then we started an actual tour with I'm Ghost where we're not going to sell this many CDs because there's not this many people coming to, our tour, so it was just a big mess. And so we kind of realized like he was just kind of like a dickhead and, it sounds like so cliche, but it's like every little promise he made to us, he broke. We even met with him in person just to kind of like air our grievances. And it went so well because he told us everything we wanted to hear. And like the minute the door shut, it was just kind of like nothing happened, right? Like as far as like he went back on everything. And so we had to like get our manager was a lawyer, so he basically was just like, okay, these are our options. We have to we basically have to buy ourselves out of your contract, and which we didn't have. I mean we had money now, but it was like this money is supposed to be spent on like touring, recording, merch, just typical band things. And now we have to like pull this. It was like for us, especially at the time, it was a big sum of money for us to buy ourselves out of a contract, right? And so we're going through this, and our buddy Jake Round, he's kind of watching us struggle, and for him, he's just like, that's not fair, man. You guys work so hard. It's not fair that you guys are getting treated like this. Like, he was just kind of throwing it out there. He's like, dude, like you guys just go back to doing this yourselves. Like, you guys don't need a label. You guys are doing good, blah, blah. And then eventually he was just kind of like, dude, and we had shown him some of the stuff we were writing too. And he was just like, man, he's like, I don't know if this is, I don't think it's like a legal thing, but, Jake basically started Pure Noise and then was just kind of like, I want to put out your album. Like, I'll help you guys out getting out of your contract. And then I'm going to help you guys. I want to put this out. What you guys do, I'm going to do it.
That's awesome. So he rescued you guys. He
rescued us, man.
Yeah.
And so Pure Noise at first was just kind of like a name that Jake and Christian would use to book our bands, because he was in a band too. And no one gave a shit about either of our bands, and so we had to pretend like we had a booking agency.
Hey, you know what? All that matters is the appearance.
Exactly. So Pure Noise Entertainment, or is that what it was called? It just became Pure Noise Records because he already had.
Everything I've seen just says Pure Noise Records.
Yeah, and so it changed to that, and then so it was just us and Jake, and it was and I think around this time too, we had started working with our manager Jason, who was like basically sixth member of MBR, and so it was a really cool. It was like a really cool team. Like, we were so small, didn't know what we were doing. Jake had been interning. He had interned at Fat Records. He'd worked for magazines. I mean, like, Jake is like, his success is not an accident. Like, this dude works his ass off, and like he wants to learn, right? So he figured out the ins and outs of more or less how to run a label, and was just like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll put it out, and we'll just kind of figure the shit out as we go.
I mean, it's inspiring considering how far you guys got. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, because that's something I kind of want to jump forward a little bit in that, like, you guys did some tours, like some legit tours with bands like Terror, Comeback Kid, like we kind of started at the beginning on this conversation about, I decided to start a band. I called my friends. They were in. We stole flyers from Kinko's. Yeah, I'm going to keep bringing it up. Even it probably wasn't even Kinko's, but it's fine. We sold water. It was illegal. We did it anyway. Our band began as a crime syndicate. It's awesome. All of it is awesome.
Well, we didn't hit on Radius Clause. We haven't talked about Radius Clause yet.
Oh, well, let's jump into that before I jump into my big question about, like,
if we're talking about more ways of MBR getting around the law.
Yeah, let's do it. Oh my God, yeah, let's get all the crime out here in the opening. Like, please talk to this officer when we're done talking. Yeah, it's awesome.
Oh, dude. Okay, so and just to throw this out there as well, we eventually graduated to making our own tour passes on Warped Tour, and got caught one of our guys, our buddy who wasn't even in the band, got caught.
Oh my God.
And we just thought like, you know what? Let's just turn ourselves in. You know, what do we have to hide? We're out here. We're not sneaking anyone in. We're just here to sell our CDs. That's it. You know?
Got us.
And so we did that, and the Warped Tour staff was just blown away that we would turn ourselves in. And also the fact that our tour passes that we had made ourselves looked legit. You know, our bassist at the time, he would later become a graphic designer. And so we turned ourselves in, and the head security just could not believe it. He was just like, I don't know what to tell you. I you know, obviously this is very bad.
The balls on these
bad.
Guys, yeah.
Yeah, but he's like, you know, I get it. He's like, I believe you guys, you know, because we gave him all the passes. Like, you know, there's 6 of us here. That we're 5 in our band, and then our buddy who got caught, you know, he's helping us. And so this is everything, you know. And so he was just like, he was basically like, okay, that like I respect you guys for turning yourselves in. If you guys want jobs, I'll give you guys jobs. You know,
even better.
So yeah, and so the weird thing is that we're already leaving from that tour. Like it was already almost over. So we're like, we actually have to go do our own little small tour. And so the word got to Kevin Lyman, and like Kevin is such a punk rock dude. So we were on. So the next year, mind you, we got caught. The following year, we got put on the Warped Tour sampler that gets sold, right? And then we get to play like actual dates on Warped Tour for the first time. And this is all following us getting caught / turning ourselves in.
That's incredible.
Oh yeah. So I wanted to like end, and especially since we're talking about our days of crime.
You guys reformed after that, right? Like, okay, yeah. Now from this day forward, it's all going to be legit.
Yeah. Oh man. Wait, what was the next?
We're talking about radius clause.
Radius clause. Oh yeah. So for if anyone who doesn't know, when you accept a tour, there's usually a radius clause, which means you can't play within a certain distance within a certain time frame, just because you don't want to take away from that date that's already on the schedule, right? So
like if you're playing, for example, if you're playing in St. Louis at Foo Bar, you can't go play Pops the next night.
Right.
Okay. Got it.
And so we're from Southern California. So oftentimes we get tours that started, you know, this tour starts in Chicago. This tour starts in New York. This tour starts, you know. And so to avoid, you know, so for us we're a small band. So like if the tour starts in New York, like we can't just drive straight because the tour path takes us there. So we have to like zigzag across the country, doing our own one-offs, right? And so it takes us like 2 weeks to get to New York just to get to the original date. And we're playing, you know, every C market we can or whatever market just to avoid, you know, the radius clause.
Right.
So we were like, what if we start a band that just plays covers and we call ourselves Radius Clause? We're not no bragging rights. We're not no bragging rights. Yeah. That way we can just drive in a straight line to wherever we're going and play as Radius Clause. And we just do cover songs.
They're all no bragging rights covers.
And we kind of refuse to do no bragging rights songs, but if they were asking nicely, we would cover no bragging rights songs since we knew them. And so
I've heard those guys are pretty cool. I'm really tight with that band. I might check out. We might play a couple of their songs. Dude,
it was so fun because it's like we were mostly just like did 90s songs, and we tried to play them as like straight up as we could, you know. So like people have heard us because we've covered Living on a Prayer, and it's Living on a Prayer, but we also have like a 2-step and a breakdown, and I scream the second verse, you know what I mean? So it's like it's our style. But for Radius Clause, like we were like, let's just play this like as straight up as we can, and because I think people expected us to be like you know a hardcore version of, you know, Just a Girl from No Doubt. It's like, nah, dude, we're playing this straight up as much as we can, like No Doubt, and I'd also say like, yeah, I'm not going to say anything positive tonight. There's zero talk of mental health. We're just here to
everybody go home and do drugs and beat their wives, right?
Yeah. Everyone go get pressed for when No Bragging Rights comes through next week.
Yeah,
those guys are gonna be super positive. I hate them.
Yeah, it's like if you came for something uplifting, you come to the wrong place. So that was our other
Well, and I'm gonna fast forward a couple years. You guys obviously went on to bigger, better things, and I always loved this humble story of like, we printed flyers and we did everything that we could. And what I love about that the most is that, like, because you guys were actually good, like, I'll say it so you don't have to say it. You guys were actually awesome, and you guys had like real passion and a real mission, so to speak. And when you guys are on tour with bands like Comeback Kid and Terror, like, at any point do you look back and think like, man, I remember having to hustle for all of this, and like the feeling that has to have, the effect that it has to have on you. Did you ever feel like you took it for granted, or do you feel like every minute of it was like, this is the result of all the hard work that I've done?
I can honestly say, like, I feel like I can speak for the guys in my band. I feel like we never took it for granted. I remember like our first time being in Europe, we got to be in a bus, and like there was just like this moment, I think, where we like started laughing / crying. Like, I don't care how lame that sounds, but it was just kind of like, yeah, like, this is crazy, right? Like, this is crazy. Like, it's weird. Like, we're in a bus right now, guys, that kind of thing. And I think for us, it was just kind of, I think we never took it for granted, because by the time we started to get on like, these bigger tours and stuff, and play with bigger bands, I think because by this point it was purely, at least for me, it was purely message based. I was getting, I was in my late 20s, early 30s, so it, like, obviously playing shows is rad, but it was by this point it just became more of the message for me. So like, it was just kind of like, dang, we get to, instead of sharing our message to like 200 kids, like we're like now like sharing this in front of like, 5,000, 1,200, whatever the tour we were on was doing. It was just like, we just had a bigger opportunity to share our music, and also for those bigger tours, it was like, it was more like when you tour with Terror or Every Time I Die, everyone's there to see Terror and Every Time I Die, like, straight up. Like, yeah, we have our little fan base, but
for
like,
sure, dude. Yeah, I get it. Yeah,
you know what I mean. And so for us, I almost saw it as more of an opportunity, like a challenge. Like, I was just like, dude, we get to play in front of, like, we get to win people over, like, this is rad. Like, we get to go out there and we're playing for people that aren't here for us, And so I don't think we had an opportunity to like take it for granted, or to sit back. I think for us, it was always kind of like, dude, we have some work to do, like, this isn't our crowd, So yeah, I don't think we ever had an opportunity to get kind of like any kind of complacency, or to really like, I don't know what the word is. Like, we definitely like had time to like appreciate like the specialness of what it was. Like, I think I've you guys heard the term imposter syndrome? Yeah. So like, I'd never heard that before. And when I heard it, I was just like, dang, that's like how I felt the entire time I was like touring, like especially once we got with bigger bands, I never felt like, I always felt like, dude, there's better, like, and I'm not trying to be humble. Like, there are better bands than us, like, just to go back, like, the fact that Shai Hulud isn't playing the same crowds as like a band like the Ghost Inside is not fair.
It's a travesty. Absolutely.
It's not fair. Right.
But I mean, the Ghost Inside's pretty legit.
Yeah.
But I mean,
like, yeah. Like, yeah, I guess that's probably not the best. That's probably
dude, no. But I understand what you're saying. Like, because there are bands absolutely 100% that make me feel something. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying the Ghost Inside doesn't make me feel something. Like, they're a great band. I love them. I did a whole episode on them. I thought they were great. I said that they were awesome, and they are. But then you take a band like Shai Hulud, or a band like Hopesfall, or a band like Strong Arm, these bands that are so emotionally driven and message driven to where you can't help but stop and take notice. But it almost seems like other bands that are more like casual, I guess, in a sense, tend to get the bigger spotlight. And I think the reason for that is more that people, it's going to sound negative. I don't mean to, but I'm just going to say it anyway, because I'm 4 beers in and here we are. But like, people want a band that is going to make them feel good, but isn't going to necessarily make them want to change things, And like, I felt that way like the first time I saw like Earth Crisis play live, where they're like veganism, and I'm like, God, like I totally get what these dudes are saying, and I totally get where they're coming from, but I love smoked ribs. Like one of the, I love hot wings. And I said hot wings to make myself sound tough, because as we talked about before, I can't handle spicy foods. But like, it's one of those things where like, the unfortunate reality is that bands that have a message tend to get ignored, and like we talk about like a lot of Christian bands and stuff on our podcast. Not because that's the focus of our podcast, but because, to be perfectly honest, those are a lot of the times the only guys that reply to our messages, but like, those bands have a message, and like that's the reason why they don't get as much popularity. Like they might be a great band. Like take something like Haste the Day. I don't expect David to understand that, but take a band like Haste the Day. They're fantastic, but people feel like there's baggage associated. And you look at a band like No Bragging Rights, and you're like, well, there's a little bit of baggage there because of the mental health stuff, and mental health is something that unfortunately doesn't really get its day in the sun, so to speak.
It's not cool, and it's not fun.
No, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
Well, like honesty makes people feel uncomfortable. And a lot of those bands that have that message are completely honest and transparent. And you believe every word they're saying, whether you agree or not. But whether you agree or not, it just makes you uncomfortable when something is that honest. So Mike, with No Bragging Rights, like you give the same exact speech before Cycles every night on tour. And I've heard it a million times. And every time I hear you go off on that, it's like hearing it for the first time. And I'm sure you've said it like a million times and rehearsed it and all that, but it's like hearing it for the first time, and just that story and where that song comes from, it makes you feel uncomfortable, even though I completely agree with you and get where you're coming from. But just that honesty is so in your face and transparent that people just don't know what to do with it.
That's a cool way to put it, that it's, honesty makes people uncomfortable, and I think that's such a true statement for bands like that, because I like with like for Sleeping Giant, I'm a Christian, and when Tommy talks, like it shakes things in me, and I'm a Christian, and so like
me too, yeah, 100%.
And so I get that, and my thing with the whole like mental health thing, it's like, I didn't want to be an advocate for that stuff. Like I don't want to be a band that talks about that every night, that eventually would write songs about it. You know what I mean? Like it's not fun. It's not a fun topic, and it's like, it's just something that like, when it all happened for us, like we couldn't stop it. And so, I felt like for us, it was just like became like not like an obligation, but it just kind of felt like for myself, it just became something I couldn't really ignore anymore, and it just felt like I had this platform and I'm going to use it for this, even though I kind of wish I could use it for something else,
Sure. So, we've talked a lot about a message, for the band, and, obviously anybody that knows No Bragging Rights knows that the message is mental health and mental health awareness. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna like be super like invasive and ask you, how you came to that message. And even though I kind of already know, but I want the listeners that are hearing it now to kind of get an understanding, like, you know, like why the band focused so much on mental health and why it was so important to you as a vocalist.
So, okay, so back in 2012, we released our album Cycles, and just before it released, so just the album Cycles in general was really personal. It's a really personal just record for us in general. You know, I have a song on there about my dad and his upbringing, surviving abuse and all that stuff, and then I'd kind of started to have conversations about mental health. Like people were starting to, you know, it was more of just kind of, I was basically struggling with people, you know what I mean? We kind of talk and it would kind of come up, you know, people are, you know, life is rough, you know? And I had a friend named Will, and the whole reason I think this all became a thing was because my buddy Will was the first guy, like he wanted to make it in music so bad. And not that we hadn't like in 2012, like we hadn't made it. Like we were still struggling super hard. Like we were still a small band. We're getting better tours, but like, you know, we're still grinding. And my buddy Will, he was the first person to ever call me a mentor. And I used to like give him shit for it. I was just like, dude, I'm not a mentor, man. Like I'm figuring this shit out as I'm going. You know, I will share my 2 cents. You know, you're my boy. I'm always happy to help. You know, but he was so. You know, he everything. He wanted to know what our practices looked like, how long they were. You know, did I sing during the practice? You know, if we did song multiple times, was I singing every time? Like that's how detailed he was. You know, like he wanted this so bad, and he just had the worst. He just had like the worst luck. But he had such an awesome attitude. So when I found out that he had taken his life, it's like it shook everything, man. And like it was you know, and I've had time to you know work through feelings and stuff. But when it happened, it felt like it was on my watch, you know. And so you know, our album is about to come out. We're starting to play shows, and you know we're talking about some of the, you know, kind of talking a little bit about the songs. I'm kind of, you know, up to this point, like a lot of what I would say on stage is more of just kind of like, you know, if you're passionate about something, pursue it. That was kind of like where we were at. But when that happened, like, I would even say it took me a while, but I would just basically I just vented on stage one night. And I think the first time I even said anything, I was just kind of like, you know, my buddy just selfishly took his life, you know, because I didn't know how to deal with it, you know. And so I was like, one night I was angry, one night I was like sad, one night I was like crying, and then I was just venting every night. And there were some nights where I wouldn't even say anything, wouldn't even bring him up at all. And what I didn't realize what was happening was every night I would go up and I would say something about it, because I couldn't shake it, man. Like I've had family members die, I've had friends pass from accidents and stuff, but to have somebody leave like that, I didn't know how to process it, because it was something that was new to me, and I couldn't shake it. And so I would be, you know, I was just straight venting. And then after our sets, you know, I'd get, you know, one person or maybe 2 people coming up and be like, hey man, I'm really sorry about your loss. That happened to me. I had a friend who did that too, man. I'm really sorry for your loss, you know. And it was kind of like it was just kind of that. So, you know, I was kind of I appreciated it. You know, some nights it was, you know, and then I think when it started to kind of turn a corner was I started having people coming up to me and just saying like, hey man, what you said tonight really really hit me about your friend, and you know, I'm suicidal. And so for me, it was just kind of like, I didn't know what to do, but I wanted to do something. So like I would just try to like, you know, I would just tell him, hey man, like here's my number. Like I wish my buddy would have called me. You know, in a weird way, I feel like maybe he thought like his problem was like too big for me. And I don't want you to feel that. So like call me. Like I know you don't know me, but call me. And so it just kind of, you know, it took a while for it to become what you would hear if you like search our videos, and what later became more of an actual, you know, call for, for seeking help if you need it, but it took me a while to get there. And it kind of just happened from one person a night to 5 people to, 10 to 20, whatever it was after the shows, people would start coming up to me. And then after a while, it just became, I was starting to get better at what I wanted to say. And it became more of kind of what it is, what it became. It happened over time. And so, and at first I didn't want it. I remember some people, when they would start to share some pretty like deep, because at first it was just suicide related things, right? It was just, hey, I'm going through this, or this happened to my friend, whatever. And then it started to become, somebody telling me like, hey, I'm suicidal because my uncle raped me. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with that.
It's so heavy. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I remember, my brother's a pastor, and so he obviously has to deal with, a lot of heavy things too. Like he has to speak at funerals and whatnot. And so I remember I told him, and I was like, dude, they're telling me stuff I'm not qualified to hear, man. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, I think maybe I should maybe stop showing up after our set, I'm
not a mental health professional. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. And so, and he's like, dude, no. He's like, no. He's like, dude, if somebody's willing to talk to you, man, he's like, you don't have to say anything. Listen, dude, if they're going to talk to you, all you have to do is listen. He's like, and and I've always felt like I was a pretty good listener. And so it was really encouraging to hear that. And it kind of took a lot of pressure off me, because I just felt like no matter what anyone dumped on me, I could take it, and I could just I could be there with them, literally just be there with them, and then just tell them like, dude, like I hear you, and I'm sorry that happened, over time it became, you hear, and any little advice. So then, I became like a healthy obsession. I'd go on YouTube, and I'd try to look up lectures on mental health. I'd try to watch, anything from like TED Talks to interviews to anything I could find about mental illness, because I wanted to understand, and I wanted to be able to give something, or at least get to a point where I could at least be like, this sounds like you should probably like talk to like somebody who you need, like, I was even having people come and tell me about like they're failing in marriage, and I'm like, maybe, marriage counseling sounds like a thing you should do, I don't know. So it's like,
right, yeah.
And so, I kind of was hearing it a lot. And then, the thing that really not forced, but like what maybe like the message, which is why like I would, if we show up like tomorrow and play a show, why I still have to speak about it, is the more I would do it, and mind you, we're playing, especially at this point, 2013, we were starting to play, mostly hardcore tours,
Sure, yeah.
So we're going out with like, Lionheart. We're going out with, we did tour with Expire. We did like, all kinds of different tours. And so, every night, dude, I was getting these, the hardcore scene. There's some tough dudes in there, there are some like, it sadly takes a special kind of person to one, listen to that music, and two, express yourself at a show the way guys in hardcore shows express themselves. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
we're all going through something. And so it was kind of alarming when I started hearing what a lot of guys in the scene were feeling and experiencing. And the thing I was kind of getting from a lot of the conversations I was having was I was the first person they have ever uttered these things to, right? Like feeling depressed, suicidal, dude. Like, I've had, I'm not gonna say it, I've had guys come out to me in the hardcore scene. I've had guys that had kids come out to me in the hardcore scene, and it's like, that's just an idea. If it's hard, that's how tough this scene can be. You know what I mean? And it's not even just hardcore. Like, yeah, it's got to be super similar to like, like the punk rock scene, dude. Like that's such a nihilistic scene. You know what I mean? Like there's, and I haven't even been in that world. You know, the world I was in was predominantly hardcore, mostly, you know, a couple metalcore bands here and there. But I imagine it's got to be just as bad with people dealing with stuff in the punk rock scene. And if you go into like the super heavy metal scene, you know, and so I guess, so my talk every night started to become more geared towards, you know, the fear of heavy music, just being that, you know, there's a lot of tough guys that are dying in silence because they're too afraid to one, get help, or two, to like speak up about how they're feeling, you know. So that became what I wanted to talk about and to kind of encourage at our shows, you know. And so so the whole mental health thing, just it like I was saying earlier, you know, I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want that to be what our band was, you know. You know, music's fun. You know, music's fun for me. Like you know, some of my favorite bands, you know, have not silly lyrics, but you know, it's fun. And you know, I just felt like it was just too much. It was too real, and it was too much to ignore. And so, you know, it came to a point where, you know, playing shows is awesome. It's fun. Like that's like the best thing ever, right? You get to play shows.
Absolutely.
But you know, every night you get your body doesn't quite recover the way it used to. And so like for me, I was ready to like not tour that much. Like I would have been fine taking bigger breaks, which we never did, but I would have been fine with that. But the thing that I was like kind of obsessed with was just I felt like we needed to talk about this, because it wasn't even that I felt, I knew every night that when we played a show in that building, somebody in there is struggling. And it was, you know, that was like a sad reality. It's like, and it wasn't just one person. Sometimes maybe just one person would come and share, but I was like, for sure, there are more people in here who are going through something very serious and, you know, aren't getting the right help, or aren't seeking the right help, or aren't, you know. So yeah, that was kind of what started it. It was my buddy Will, and then just kind of being able to, you know, and once I kind of stopped feeling like, you know, and that's the thing, dude, like suicide, like I took it so personally, you know, and I like made it about me, you know, like how dare he make me feel this way, you know. It's like, yeah. And once I was able to like finally like step back, see that it's an illness, see that, you know, it's much bigger than how I feel about it, and that it was super prevalent in the scene, then it just became, it gave our just existence as a band. It was just something. It was more than just, you know, playing a cool show and having people like the way I sang. You know what I mean? It completely changed.
Well, and if I can jump into it a little bit, you know, as far as you know, this is another thing where people are going to send me emails and be like, "You talked too much during that interview about you. It's not about you." But I've definitely been through a lot of that, you know, on a personal level, as well as having to kind of get through situations like that where I'm asked to like speak my mind on it. And it's hard because like I went through it personally. So, and I've shared this story before, but I'll share it here again, if anybody cares. Basically like, so I've made references to it all throughout this interview. I've made references to it in other podcasts, and you know, me and my co-host Joe, we were in a band in 2005, 2006. It was a melodic hardcore band. No big secret there. But we, you know, I sang and Joe played drums, and we had a relatively good time. We didn't have like a amazing career. We signed to a label that nobody'd ever heard of, and we put a record out that nobody'd ever heard, and, you know, all that good stuff. And it was fine, you know, like I'm happy with it. I'm comfortable with it. And then, you know, our band broke up around 2007, and before that I had been doing a music magazine, you know, about bands that I liked, like brutal bands. And I had always been kind of a creative mind as far as like I'm really passionate about this music that I like, and I want everybody else to be passionate about it as well. That's why we do this podcast, like 100%. And I went through a period of time where, the band had been broke up for several years, and we hadn't really done anything. I wasn't doing anything creative. I got married. I had a child, and now I've had multiple. I have 4 kids now. Yes, we do have a TV. We know that there's other things you can do to entertain yourself. But whatever. I love my 4 kids. But we have 4 children and all that. But like back in this time, this is probably 2015 or so, I was working for a cable company as a cable guy, installing cable for people. And if you can only imagine what that's like. And I had gone probably an entire month. I think it was like 36 days, no days off. Just working constantly. And I started to kind of lose my grasp on everything. I was like, had started off this creative mind, I want to create things. I want to do positive things. I want to, make a change in the world, blah, 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 blah. But it was one of those, I've been in a band. It didn't go anywhere. It didn't work out. The dream wasn't there for me. I didn't make it, so to speak. And that always weighed very heavily on my mind, I basically, took a job, doing cable installs. And if you can imagine what that's like people complaining all the time because grandma can't get HBO, and I reached a point where I was like, I couldn't care less whether grandma gets to watch HBO tonight or not.
Right.
It's not a necessity. It doesn't matter. And so my self-esteem took a huge hit. I was like, I used to be somebody and now I'm nobody, that sort of thing. And I was very I just kind of lost all sense of where I was and what I was doing and, all that. And I started having these weird, excuse me. I started having these weird thoughts I'm up here by this power line. If I grab this power line, I would die instantly, no pain, and my family would get X amount of dollars, and my reputation wouldn't take a hit. My reputation as a Christian, my reputation as a person wouldn't take a hit because it was just a work accident. It was just something that happened, and I would be the only one that knew that, that it was more than that, and so I kind of played around with that idea. I kept working and, eventually though, some part of me came alive and was like, dude, this is really jacked up. Why are you thinking these things? This isn't natural for people to think. So I remember I was at a lady's house and she was like, I want my recordings on my DVR. And I was like, your DVR's dead. It's a brick. It doesn't work, and she was like, well, I want my recordings back. And I was like, well, you can't have them. They're gone, and she was like, well, I want them back. And she demanded to talk to a manager or whatever. And I was so far gone at that point that I remember calling my supervisor and being like, if I don't leave work right now and go talk to somebody about this, I'm going to end up hurting myself or somebody else. I don't know how to quantify it or whatever. And what ended up happening ended up being one of the worst experiences of my life because, I'd reached out and I just had wanted to talk to somebody. But what happened was I ended up getting checked into the local hospital, self-checked in. And then they put me on observation for it wasn't 24 hours. It was 18 hours or 17 hours or something. And at some point, my wife and kid came up and visited me and it was this big emotional thing. And then the doctors were trying to get my wife to sign these documents that would basically say that I would forfeit all of my personal rights, you know what I mean? To leave or to check myself out or anything like that. And, it was really jacked up, the way they were trying to get her to do that. And she refused to sign anything, thankfully. But then I ended up getting transferred to another facility and, I sat there all night, scared and know what was going on and what was going to happen. And keep in mind, the original reason that I reached out to anybody was because I wanted to talk to somebody. And instead, I didn't get to talk to anybody. Like, there were nurses that would come by and they would try to give me like pills and like antidepressants and stuff. And like, I didn't
just left you more alone with your thoughts.
Correct. And I didn't take any of it because I was like, I don't know what effect these drugs are going to have on me, and I don't know how it's going to be. And I guess like during that experience, like I kind of just like woke up and was like, what am I doing here? Like what's happened? Like how have I gotten to this point? Like where are we at or whatever? And like, luckily I was able, like the next morning I called my wife like several times because they had a phone that you could call people on, and talk. And, she got me out of there, but like, and it's funny too, because like when she tried to get me out of there, they originally told her like, well, you signed documents saying that, he had forfeited his rights. And she's like, oh, really? Well, let's see him, because I didn't sign them, and they didn't have anything. So they eventually had to let me go. And like that's the thing where I always take pause whenever I see, people being like, suicide hotline, call the suicide hotline. And it's like, if you call the suicide hotline, pretty much like what happened to me is what's going to happen to whoever you called the suicide hotline on, And so it was a very negative experience for me. And dude, it was so jacked up. Like, they took me from one facility to another facility, and I went in an ambulance, and then they charged me for the ambulance like after that. And I was like, what is going on? Like, this is ridiculous. And like that whole experience of how people treat you if you're having a mental health dilemma. I told this story to Scott from Zayo, the guitar player, and he was very like, yeah, he's like, look at this. He's like, you don't really even have like a chemical imbalance. Your situation, your depression, your suicidal thoughts all came from a very situational thing. But look at how far you got, like into that situation, because the spending time in the hospital and dealing with nurses and things like that, like it ended up doing more damage to me than it needed to.
Then if somebody would have just talked to you,
you're right. Nobody would talk to me, and I think part of it was, don't get me wrong, like when people are dealing with stuff like this, we're very secretive. Because like it's one of those, like, if you're going to kill yourself, you don't want anybody to stop you. Like if that's what you decide to do, And I don't think I was there. I don't think I really wanted to die. You know what I mean? But I was just in a really bad situation, and once I removed myself from that situation, like it got better. But it was definitely one of those things where like I see it all the time. Like, oh, like people feel like doing their part is posting something on Facebook saying, call the suicide hotline. But like, in a certain sense, like I had a buddy of mine who also had a similar experience. He called the suicide hotline because he was feeling really down. He was in a bad legal situation, and he just felt like he had no way out. And he called the suicide hotline, and it was the same thing. They came, they picked him up in the ambulance. They charged him for the ambulance. They put him in the hospital. They put him under suicide watch, and eventually ended up releasing him, similar to my situation. And I think the hardest part is that everybody says that they want to be suicide aware, they want to be mental health aware, but at the end of the day, everybody seems to have support exhaustion, I guess, if that's a thing that you've heard of, like where you tell somebody that you're depressed and they go, oh, that sucks, I'm sorry. And they might have a deep conversation with you that night, but then the next morning when they're like, how are you doing? You're like, oh, I'm still depressed. And they're like, oh, really? And then you're like, yeah, I'm still depressed.
That one talk didn't fix it.
Yeah, I'm still having a lot of trouble. And they're like, oh, wow, really? And so it definitely like the whole experience. The reason I'm telling the story is that it was very eye opening for me to see that wow, I had a serious mental health issue there and nobody cared. Like my wife cared, obviously, everybody else cared, but my wife cared, my parents maybe cared, but beyond that, the friends and family, it's just one of those, you've got this problem. I hope you get over it because I'm tired of supporting you through this. And, so I just, was wondering if that matched up at all to your perspective, if that was the kind of stuff that people had referred back to you, in these private chats, in these, backstage kind of deals.
The backstage deals, yeah. So I've had in my lives, I don't think anyone's come on and had that kind of experience, but I've heard your experience before, and it every time it's like devastating, because it's like you did what was the right thing, right? Like you wanted to get help, and you called the hotline.
I did what I thought I was supposed to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and in some cases I've heard of like people who lost, it put them in a worse spot. It made them even more suicidal because they had to pay for the ambulance fees. They had this one girl, she was there for like a week basically, because for her, she's like, I told you why I'm here. Like, I'm not ready to go. No one's talked to me. No one's helping me, And so I've heard the awful side of things like that. I think the helpful side is, when somebody can, I would think like going and finding like a therapist to talk to, for me, is kind of like, I think that's one of the better ways to go, because it's talking, and it's that's what I try to encourage, my hopes is, for people to reach out and have a conversation, but obviously if it's like to the point where it's like you're being you're on that verge, then like you need to get professional help, and that sucks, because but I've also heard some instances where they did call the hotline and they got picked up and they got put with a like a crisis therapist basically, and helped them, talk them out. So it sucks that like that wasn't your experience, and that hasn't been experienced for a couple people that I've met. So that was always a really interesting one too. A lot of people assume that when I talk to people after shows, especially if it's like almost like a follow up, that it's good, and it's not always,
Sure, no, I get that 100%. Like, and how did that feel for you, like as a guy that, like, because you don't know these people, and I think that's the hardest part. And honestly, you don't know me. Like, I mean, we've been talking for an hour, so we know each other better than we did, but like, like it being one of those experiences where somebody just comes and pours their heart out their heart out to you. It's like, what do you do with that?
Yeah. And especially if it was like, and it also helped. It's also happened like I've had good friends even like come back and be like, things aren't getting better, and which is kind of also what inspired our song Hope Theory, which was even before I started getting into the whole conversation of mental health and suicide awareness. I was always trying to talk about like the possibility of change, like change can happen in your life, and that's kind of a lot of what our earlier message was. Things can change. We have the power to impact our own life. That kind of thing. And so I'd run into like friends that'd be like, dude, things aren't getting better, man. And I'd always try to stand firm and just saying like, dude, I understand that. Like it's probably gonna not get better for a minute, dude. But I truly believe that if you're an active participant in wanting your life to change, and you're trying, you're taking steps to whatever that looks like, whatever the get a new job, or try harder in your marriage, whatever it is. Like,
sure,
I always feel like that the possibility for change, I think, will always be there, And that's where the original idea of Hope Theory came from. The song where I actually speak about, before I go into Hope Theory, which is what that song's about, is when I talk about mental illness now, And so, but yeah, man, I would still say my advice for anyone, especially if they've had like a bad experience, I would say like finding like a therapist is, I think, the best and safest way, Yeah. Because it's
totally.
You're talking to somebody who's listening, unless and then I think from that moment on, like if you are expressing like okay, like this, you're suicidal, whatever it is, then I think they'll have I feel like they'll handle it better than just being like, hey, come get this guy, or hey, you know what I mean? Like it's
sure, yeah.
I feel like it's handled better, but.
So how have you dealt with because Dan, you were talking about like support exhaustion, I think was the term that you said.
Yeah.
So like, you're playing show in, show out, and you're doing all these dates, and obviously you're putting yourself out there. We were kind of talking about it off air. But you're putting yourself out there every night, and you're talking to these fans, and you're that guy that is listening that they might not have for the rest of their life. But that's got to put a mental wear and tear on yourself as well. You're alone on tour. You don't have a wife and kid at home that you get to call every night. You have your parents, and you have your friends, and your friends in the band. But sometimes support exhaustion isn't intentional. So how do you kind of move yourself away from that? Like, how do you deal with support exhaustion? How do you put yourself there day in and day out for complete strangers, and maybe that can help someone that's dealing with a loved one that they're trying to help every day?
Yeah, and another thing that I just learned in school was compassion fatigue, which is basically the same thing, and
yeah.
So for me, like it was super difficult, and like this is kind of fast forwarding a little bit, but we've been on a 5-year hiatus, and it sucks because like our band needed a break, but it's like, man, why did it have to be 5 years? But it had to be for me, because I learned through school and just kind of being able to speak to an actual therapist and things like that I've learned to protect myself mentally, emotionally, which I didn't know how to do on tour. And for a lot of people that didn't know me as far as day to day was, as my band became successful, and as I was talking to more and more people, we were helping. It was great, but I deal with my own depression. For anything that happens to me, like any good thing that happens to me, you could bet money that's I'm probably going to go to bed like feeling like the loneliest I've ever felt in my life. Like that's just that's how depression affects me. I can't, it never lets me enjoy any kind of victory. It never lets me enjoy, like, happiness always has something behind it for me. That was my depression growing up and what it was during a band. So I'm dealing with that. My band's becoming the most successful it's been. And I have people just bringing me like heavy things every night, And so then what I was doing to protect myself then was I was trying to find outlets. I didn't understand what coping mechanisms were, because I was just trying to do things to distract my brain and get me back to a place where I could sleep, because it was hard. Like I wasn't sleeping. Like there was runs of where I didn't know how to like disconnect, and especially, it's one thing when a total stranger tells you, what they're going through and what's happening. And then, we were by 2015, I mean, we had toured a lot, so we had friends in every city. And so some of those strangers started becoming friends that were becoming more comfortable sharing with me. So that was even harder, because it's people I care about now, it's someone that I truly know, or at least have known throughout the years. And so that was hard to disconnect from, and to, it's like, they tell me this stuff, and then it's like, hey, we're going to the bar tonight. It's like, don't feel like hanging out. I don't feel like, feel like going out.
Yeah. I feel that.
Yeah. And so I think, Dave will probably laugh at this. So for me, I got into audiobooks, and then I slowly started getting into conspiracies. And conspiracies for me were, whether I believe them or not, whether I thought there was any credibility or not, it was something that was so out of the norm that it forced me to think differently. So for me, like really trying to listen or study some kind of random conspiracy was a way for me to disconnect. Like it took my attention, it was just something that gave my brain a reset, or gave it something to like pull away from. Cause like there are just some things that you just can't, it's just hard to walk away from. Like you can't shake. And so I just try to find different things to kind of distract myself. Like my last couple of years of touring, I got really into fantasy baseball. So that was like something that kind of distracted me. And not like looking back on it now, I was pretty good at finding things to distract myself, and not necessarily finding things to help me get through what I was going around things, but I wasn't really going through whatever it was I was feeling personally. Like I wasn't allowing myself to attack it. I was more like trying to just survive, just put it on the back burner. Let me just distract myself. You know, I got into audiobooks. I started getting into like just anything I could listen to just to kind of try to quiet my brain. And so for touring was super tough for me, man. And I really think that had we not stopped when we did, I was a couple tours away from just something really bad happening to me, you know. And because I had some pretty dark moments for myself on tour, and thankfully I either was able to call somebody, or I was able to go on a walk, or just different little things I was able to finally like get out of it, you know. I'm also faith is a big part of my survival, like, you know, and so that was also a big thing for me too, you know, where a lot of people use meditation, you know, I use prayer. Like prayer was like my big thing on tour. And so I was basically surviving barely, which is why it sucks that we had to take that hiatus that we did, but I needed it because I didn't know how to protect myself. I didn't know how to separate things. You know, I'm still learning that, you know, I'm still in school for that, but, you know, a part of me wishes I would have loved to have known what I know now and applied it back when I was touring, you know, because I feel like I would have been able to be more, I would have been able to enjoy a little bit more, you know. So some nights I would have probably been able to sleep a little easier maybe, but you know, I was just kind of a lot of trial and error, you know, when we were touring, because only thing I was getting what I was learning. I was trying to learn on the fly, you know. I was just reading what I could. We got into you know, what was nice is you know, different people would even come up to the show like, hey, I'm a therapist. I appreciate what you said. I'm here with a friend of mine who told me about your band. I wanted to just, you know, say you're doing a good job, blah, blah. And I would take that opportunity to be like, you know, any kind of quick questions I had, like, yeah,
can I pick your brain for a second?
Yeah. Like, how do you sleep?
Right.
So it's, man.
Well, and to keep the tone from just going absolutely down the toilet, let's you know, you've been talking about the hiatus and how you needed the hiatus, but you're talking like it's over. Is the hiatus over? Are you looking at doing more stuff? I mean, obviously not in the middle of a nationwide pandemic, but you know, when that's over, you know, are you looking at striking out again, or are we still on hiatus?
Well, first off, it would have been such a thing for our band to have announced a comeback tour. Like, our comeback tour is going to be in March. You know, that would have been such a like thing to happen to our band.
Sure.
You know, so for us, like we have a couple things that we have to work through internally. But at least speaking for myself, I think I'm not done. You know, I would like to, at the least, we have to do like a legit farewell show or farewell shows if we were to end it. Like I feel like we at least owe it to ourselves to do that. You know, 'cause we kind of, you know, we played some shows in Texas a year after, like, so we went on the hiatus 2015, and then we'd canceled a festival in Texas, and then the year later we got to play that festival. So, you know, so 2016 was the last time we had all been together, and so for me, like, I'm done being a full-time touring band. Like that's where I'm done. But I'm not done. I'm not done playing shows. I'm not done. You know, I can do a tour. I can do a month-long tour. I can do, you know, whatever it is I want. I actually have a lot to say, you know. So, some of the things that our band has at least internally agreed on is we want to write, like we want to record, regardless of if we end it now or keep going. Like, we want to write. So we do have one song done. It's a ridiculous song for us as far as like style wise. Like,
it's grindcore. No.
Yeah, pretty much. No. There is nothing melodic about it. Like, and what's funny is
so I'm not wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's funny because I had my buddy Daniel who writes our music. He came on one of my lives and he's just like, yeah, man, I kind of want to like apologize and say sorry for like writing that song, because you know, like it has nothing for you as far as like, the melody side. But I didn't care. I was just like, dude, it's something new. I'll write for it, whatever. And so we have one song where I'm confident that if Daniel gets into writing mode, like it'll be like a B-side, or it'll be like something we just release for fun, because it's definitely lyrically I stand by it, but musically it's pretty out there for us. But so I think we want to write. I think we have at least one more EP, maybe album. I think EP for sure in us. And then
you got to do an album, or we can't talk about it on a discography discussion.
Yeah,
you got to do a whole album,
dude. And what's rad is that Daniel, our guitarist, like he can do that. Like he is such, like, I've been super spoiled, like just in general. Like the guys in my band are awesome dudes, and Daniel, he's the kind of guy who, like, I can get like a text message from him and be like, hey man, I have an album, basically, like I'll send it to you. I'll send you what I got. And so I think we do have more that we want to say. And I just think the big discussion is, once we kind of figure out what's going to happen more or less internally, I think it's if we continue, what does that look like moving forward?
For sure.
Are we going to be a festival band? Are we Boy Sets Fire that just shows up and plays
Do it.
European shows all the time?
Do it, man.
Is Chad Johnson listening? Maybe we can get MBR on Furnace Fest.
I'm worried about Furnace Fest, man. I'm really worried about it. Like, I'm afraid it's not going to happen. I'm terrified.
It's funny because people will ask us about like, hey, dude, if Sound and Fury hits you up, would you guys play it? And it's like, yeah, but they've never asked us to play it when we were a band. So like, I don't know what's changed.
Can you ask them to ask us to come play? Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the best one, it's flattering, but at the same time, it's like, let's relax, guys. Is like, hey, the Ghost Inside's coming back. Like, would you guys go on tour with the Ghost Inside? It's like, let me think if we would go on tour with the Ghost Inside. You know what I mean? It's like,
well,
yes.
It's like, let's wait for it to be on the table, and then we'll talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, would we? Of course we would. But it's just like one of those things for us too. It's like, we could all meet up, and jam out for a week or two, and then play some shows. We could do that. But I think we've, at least for ourselves, like if we're gonna, like I said, if we're gonna end it, like we got to do it right. Like we got to, pick, venues that we want to play, the bands we want to play with, and then we got to really give ourselves like, couple weeks to get,
prepped up again. Yeah.
Prepped again, and do it right, because we, like I said, I think, we owe it to ourselves to do that. We worked way too hard to kind of just stop, and a lot of it, I kind of will shoulder a lot of like why we've been gone so long was on me. I think we could have been back a lot sooner, but I think for myself, I wasn't ready to be back.
Sure.
And,
I get that.
Yeah. And I think, like I said, I'm still learning a lot in school, and I think when we do come back, whatever capacity, whatever it is, I think it'll be good. It'll be good for me. I'll be more protected
for sure.
And I think I'll be able to at least, I'll be a better listener. I've learned some better listening skills, I think. So, yeah.
No, that's awesome, man. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up here. We're at 2 hours, and thank God for Joe, who will actually edit this. He's going to probably ask.
Joe.
He's probably going to ask me for some money. He's like, dude, you guys want me to edit 2 hours of you guys talking about making
hot sauce?
Yeah, talking about hot sauce and illegal copies, of flyers and all that stuff. But man, I really appreciate you coming on and being super real and just having a good conversation. I think in the midst of all of this, whatever you want to call this, I think there has been a cry from people to have content that is more real, that is more open and more honest. I know a lot of people are dealing with mental health issues now, you know, especially maybe because they've lost their jobs because of this stuff, and they're not sure what the future holds, you know, where we're at and all of that. So I think this was a good, you know, way to kind of dive into that. And I you know, as a fan, I appreciate the band history and little tidbits and stuff that I didn't know before and stuff like that. I mean, David probably could have told me everything, but you know, I don't believe anything that dude says. So I had to hear it from the
Rightfully
source.
so.
Right.
Rightfully so.
He's a hype machine. So, you know, that's how it rolls there. But man, I really appreciate you taking the time out and chatting tonight. And
dude, thanks for having me. And you know, and I commend you for sharing your story too, because I feel like that gives some real content to, like, you know, for somebody who may have had your experience.
Yeah.
You know, or somebody who's like been on the fence, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe be cautious moving forward. And
absolutely.
You know, I highly recommend you know, seeing a counselor or a therapist. So
for sure. Well, thanks a lot, man. Thank you, David, for coming on. Don't talk so much next time. You know,
I was hanging on every word that you guys are saying,
jumping in every 3 seconds, but
the hype guy.
Yep.